all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world. She walks into mine.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
There's no crying in baseball.
You talking to me?
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You can't handle the truth.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Old School Movie Club podcast. I am Sean, joined with my friend Kevin. Kevin, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm pretty good. You went on a we had like a little break there. We didn't record
3-week break
episode for 3 weeks. Kevin went to a film festival. Kevin, how was that?
Yeah, I went to Fantastic Fest in Austin, Texas, and I would say it was pretty fantastic.
There you go. It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
After Kevin got back from the film festival, I left for a cruise. It was a good cruise. I had fun. We went to the Bahamas. We actually couldn't dock though because it was too windy. So most of the time we just stayed on the boat. We had one stop that we were able to go to, but it was good still. But enough about that. Back from the break, we are doing, to kick off our horror month for October in honor of Halloween, we've got 4 horror movies coming up. The first of which was The Evil Dead. So Kevin, what was your thoughts on The Evil Dead just watching it? Like, what was your initial thoughts on it?
Before watching it?
Yeah, before watching it. What did you think going in?
Well, first off, I'll just say that I am glad to hear that you survived.
Yep.
Because I know how you are with horror films.
Yep. Well, I mean, I think I'll be fine with 80s horror films because they're pretty cheesy.
This one especially was.
Yeah, this was very
But yeah, I mean, with The Evil Dead, I was expecting cheesy, campy, really silly effects that, were extremely gruesome and gory, and I think that's exactly what we got.
That is exactly what we got.
Yeah.
So
I had fun with it.
Yeah, you said like cheesy effects and stuff, and I think it's really, really interesting to go back and see like how filmmakers used certain things to, like, for effects. Because I saw like oatmeal in this, I saw milk in this. It was like the cheesiest effects that you could think of, but it works still, And
then a fair amount of ketchup and red food dye.
Yes, lots of it. Lots of blood. But yeah, I mean, this is like a very, very campy horror film. And
yeah, I mean, it felt like a very typical 80s horror film in terms of effects. Yeah. It felt kind of like a B horror film.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though it's turned into a cult classic.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, they were working with a budget of maximum $400,000.
So I was actually reading up on this, and they the reasoning behind making The Evil Dead like how it is, it's actually got a really, really short run time. It's only an hour and 20 minutes long.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. But the reason they did that is because drive-ins were really, really popular right around that time. And Halloween, a movie that we're actually going to watch next week, had just made a bajillion dollars on like kind of a similar budget in those drive-in markets. So they wanted to make a drive-in movie, but make it to where there was only scares. Like there was no slow points in the movie. Once the horror started, it kept going, And I read this after I watched the movie, and I was kind of thinking back on the movie, and I kind of agree with that. It was kind of slow in the beginning, but once the horror started, you didn't really stop. There was no like downtime,
Right. Did any of the jump scares particularly stand out for you, or
no,
really get you?
Not at all. I was not scared at all during this movie. It was kind of like there was actually some points where I laughed, and I did actually enjoy it more than I thought it would because I don't really like scary movies, but
yeah. And so the thing is, like, with the Evil Dead, this one out of the whole Evil Dead franchise is supposed to be the one that's more based on horror, and then the sequel, Evil Dead 2, is supposed to be more of a comedy with
I think they
horror
embraced
elements.
it more.
But I felt like this one was very comedic too. It wasn't trying to be comedic, but
Sam Raimi was like, you know what, I'm gonna embrace the comedy more in this, because like even in the first scene where they're driving up to the thing, and the guys and Bruce Campbell's like, I think it's right, and it's like that long, like stretched out response to his friend Scott, you know. Even that was like very, very good comedic timing and stuff, and not what you would expect from a horror movie. And I think he just probably embraced it more in the second film than with the miniseries they just released and stuff like that.
For sure, yeah.
Any highlights for this movie that you had? What were your bright spots for this one?
I mean, what impresses me the most is that such a young crew, such a young filmmaker could put together a film as coherent and effective as this one is.
Yeah.
I mean, by no means is it the greatest horror film I've ever seen. It's not even close.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I mean, so this released in theaters October 15th, 1981. That was a week before the director Sam Raimi turned 22.
It's crazy. And Sam Raimi now is
Bruce Campbell at the time was 23.
Yeah. And Sam Raimi now is a big name for directors. You know, you probably, most people listening to this probably know him best as the original Spider-Man series director.
Yeah, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Yeah, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man series. And I mean, that in itself is crazy. He goes from like a movie like this to directing Spider-Man, you know, some 20 years later.
Not only that, though, but he's had involvement in everything Evil Dead.
Yeah, a lot of projects.
I mean, he's done the Evil Dead, the one that we watched from 1981. There's been Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, which is essentially Evil Dead 3.
Yeah, and then the Evil Dead, which was 2013.
The Evil Dead again in 2013, which I thought was a remake completely done by someone else, but Raimi was at least somewat involved with that too.
I think he produced it.
And now the Ash vs. Evil Dead TV show.
Yeah. Yeah, Sam Raimi is a big name when it comes to Hollywood directors. He's done a lot of films, and I mean, I guess you have to be a big name to get a franchise like Spider-Man, you know. But this is like where he started from. This was like his third, when I was looking it up, it was like his third or fourth directing credit. So this is like the very beginnings of Sam Raimi. And even in this, you can see like, I didn't really see any overlap between directing styles, between this and Spider-Man. I mean, cause it's 20 years apart and he probably grew a lot as a director, but some of the shots that he used in this film are really, really interesting that you don't see like anywhere else. Like one in particular I was thinking of is the one, I can't really pinpoint the scene, but it's when Bruce Campbell is alone in the house after he just buried his girlfriend or whatever. The camera like goes up behind his head and over his head into his face, and that was such a weird. It's such a weird shot, but it's like it's cool and interesting.
I remember that shot. It felt like an overly dramatic.
Yeah, it was so weird.
Soap opera kind of shot almost.
Yeah, and there was a lot of those things kind of like that in this movie. There was a lot of weird, like interesting angles and shots, and I mean, definitely was being creative when shooting this film.
Yeah, and it added to the charm of the film, which I think is
maybe that's why it's such a cult classic
this has become such a cult classic.
All right, well, Kevin, I've heard your bright spot on the movie. What did you not like about this movie?
I wish there was more reason to care about the characters.
Yeah.
other than Ash. I mean, because Ash spans the whole franchise. He is the guy. So, of course, you care about him. But I don't remember the names of any of the other characters.
It was like Scott, Linda.
Yeah, but
Trish.
I don't know. I just when all of them were being possessed and being killed off, I didn't really care. I just wanted it to happen.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm kind of with you on that one.
And I guess that's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like that short run time
a horror
where you
film.
just get right into it.
But
yeah, you don't really have any like character development per se. You have that little bit with Scott and his girlfriend, and then with Scott, or not Scott and his girlfriend, with Ash and his girlfriend. And then Scott just was kind of like the bully, I guess, of the bunch. I don't know. They were really kind of just blank slates, and you just threw them into this situation.
Yeah, I mean, the only chance you really got to get to know these characters was that car drive over to the cabin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like, for my bright spots and, like, my down points, I really, really liked the interesting use of, like, camera angles and stuff in this movie. Like, all the different interesting shots that I've never really seen before in a film. Like, it was very, very creative and very, very risky, and it worked out for them. I mean,
yeah.
You know, that was a big risk doing all these weird things with the camera, and it definitely, like, it helped to add to the movie's charm, like you said. It didn't take anything away from it. And then down points, you know, it is really, really campy. But I think it's supposed to be. So, I mean, I really can't be mad at that. But it is very, very campy.
Yeah, I say the campiness, again, it's one of my negatives, but like you just said, I get that it was supposed to be campy. I just wish they could have done a little more with it to make it scarier, more dramatic.
Yeah. All right. Well, final thoughts on The Evil Dead by Sam Raimi.
Dude, the makeup and lighting in this is incredible.
I thought that too.
Yeah.
It was very, very.
I just
good
wanted to make
job.
sure we said that before moving on. I mean, yeah, we talk about how everything looked cheesy and campy, and you know the makeup adds to that, but the makeup was really strong in general.
Good, yeah. Well, I mean, like I said at the beginning, they used a lot of. I mean, this isn't really makeup, I guess, but they used a lot of interesting things for special effects in this movie. Like I said, I saw milk when they were spitting up all that stuff. That was definitely milk or something. And then they had oatmeal coming out of them when they were dissolving at the end.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting use. Like a lot of. I think the main part of this movie is like how creative they used everything.
Yeah, and it was all practical.
Yeah, it was all practical. I think the ending was like claymation, kind of, how they did it. That's what it looked like, at least, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure what they did there, like with the... I think it was stop-motion claymation, though.
That's possible. I'll have to look into that.
But yeah, it, like, this whole movie, I could say, was creative.
Very.
Very creative.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I look forward now to watching the rest of the Evil Dead franchise and see how it evolves over time.
I hope it keeps that creativity, though.
Yeah, that creativity's got to stay.
Yeah. Because without the creativity in this movie would just be bad. It would just be a really bad movie.
It would be, but you know, I feel like the creativity has to be there because the general opinion is that Evil Dead 2 is far better than The Evil Dead.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. I didn't know that.
Like, I think on Letterboxd, The Evil Dead has like a 3.7 or a 3.8, which is really high still. But Evil Dead 2 has like a 4.2.
Dang. Did not know that.
Yeah.
Huh. Alright, well, let's get into our final scores, Kevin. What did you think of The Evil Dead?
My final score is a 3.5 out of 5.
3.5 out of 5. I'm going to be right there with you, Kevin. I'm going to say 3.5 out of 5. Again, it's really, really campy. You don't really care about any of the characters except for Ash, kind of. And then, you know, it's old, and it doesn't, like, the effects,
yeah.
it's just, it's old. But if you can get past all that, and just take an open mind and say, you know, I appreciate all the creativity they had here. It's a very good movie, and it actually is funny at some points. Like, I genuinely did laugh at this movie a few times.
Yeah, and to add to all that, it's just fun.
Yeah, it is a fun
movie. This is like the perfect movie to throw on if you're with a bunch of friends hanging out watching a movie for Halloween.
So this is probably the king of, you know, good, bad movies.
No, I wouldn't say that, because I don't think it's a bad movie.
What? Yeah. I don't know. I'm just like, of B horror films, this is probably the king.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
I guess
Evil
it's a better
Dead
way
2,
to phrase it.
But
yeah.
Haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah. So far in my mind, this is the king. All right.
Yeah.
So next week we are watching Halloween, which is what the Evil Dead kind of aspired to be as far as like financial success. It's in the same era. You know, that drive-in.
It's a few years earlier.
It's a few years earlier. But it's got that, not the same feel. I've never seen Halloween, so I don't know. But it's the same audience they're going for. They're going for that drive-in movie theater audience. So I think we'll
have you seen any
similarities.
slasher films before?
Yeah, I've seen some, but I don't really like them. I'm not really good with those kind of
It'll be interesting to see how this goes.
Yeah.
For you. And I've recently become a pretty big fan of slasher films.
See, Halloween, I think, was the one I was dreading the most out of all the movies we were watching. I know Psycho's not going to be really scary to me because it's just really dated. And I knew Evil Dead was supposed to be kind of, like, campy and funny. But, I don't know. Let's see. We'll see. I mean, maybe I grew out of being scared of scary movies. I haven't seen one in so long, and I saw It, like, a few weeks ago, and it wasn't even that scary to me. Like, I didn't get scared at all. I don't think I jumped once.
See, so recently, a friend of mine that I met at Fantastic Fest posted a list of his top 10 horror films from the festival.
Yeah.
And I put a comment on there saying, myself on October 6, 2016, last year, I would have said that I hadn't seen any of those films and I would stay away from all of them because I was so anti-horror. But at the time that I commented on that list that he made, I had seen 8 of those 10 films that were horror films that premiered at that festival.
Interesting.
So, I mean, I've definitely, just a year ago, thought I was completely anti-horror, but here I am watching horror movies all the time now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this month will bring a new appreciation for horror films for me.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. But anyways, Halloween next week. The week after that, we'll be trying to do a live show. Keyword is trying. If we can't get it all settled down, we'll just do a normal episode. But we're going to be trying.
We'll at least be able to record together in person.
Yes. Kevin will be down in Charlotte, so we'll be able to record at the studio. We'll have really good mic quality, hopefully. And but yeah, I'm excited for this month. I'm anxiously excited. But Kevin, I think that's it for us. Where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me all over the place now. I have a new website.
I saw that. You got a new website.
KevWatchTheFilm.com, where I'm posting my full-length film reviews and keeping an updated ranking of films that I see every year. So right now I have reviews up for The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which is a psychological horror thriller film that I saw at Fantastic Fest. It comes out in about 2 weeks. And I also have a full review up there for Blade Runner 2049.
Did you ever see the original Blade Runner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the original Blade Runner.
Okay. I'm interested in Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have that website. I now have a Facebook page for Kev Watch the Film. And then, of course, you can find me on Twitter and Stardust at Kev Watch the Film.
All right, and give me that website one more time.
KevWatchTheFilm.com.
Very easy. All right, and
everything for me is Kev Watch the Film something.
Yeah, and then you can find me nowhere really, well except for Letterboxd at or Letterboxd/PatPat, and then you can follow the show on Twitter at OldSkoolMovieSK. All right, Kevin.
Go watch movies.
Go watch movies.